She should pay back every cent of that mortgage, then you should cut her off. I'd be ashamed to even call her family. My heart was full of hope as I reached for the doorknob of my parents' house, clutching the tickets for their dream trip to Europe. It had taken me months to save up enough money to give them the vacation they had longed for over the years. I imagined us celebrating their 50th anniversary together as a family, full of joy and gratitude. But just before I opened the door, I heard something that changed everything. "She's such a loser. It's embarrassing." It was unmistakably my sister Michelle's voice. I froze in place, holding my breath. I can't wait until she's done paying off the mortgage. The blood drained from my face. They were talking about me. 15 years of faithfully covering that mortgage every month. All to help my family, for my parents' retirement, for a future I believed we shared. Then I heard my mother, Rose, reply, "Everything's already in motion. Don't worry." My hands were trembling. I pulled out my phone and hit record. If I didn't capture this moment, they'd later say it was a misunderstanding. "She plays house with her little pretend job. She's pathetic, she can't succeed at anything." Michelle's mocking voice cut deep. To them, my career as a nurse and the senior care home I built from the ground up meant nothing. They saw it as just a small-time care center, always laughing behind my back, wondering when I'd find a real job. What had I been working for, sacrificing for, these 36 years? Just then, my 6-year-old son Lucas, who'd been waiting in the car, ran over, concern in his eyes. "Mom, are you okay? Your face is really pale." Looking into Lucas's innocent eyes, I made up my mind. I wouldn't expose him to this kind of toxic environment. "Lucas, let's go home," I said, forcing a smile. "But what about Grandma and Grandpa's party?" "We'll come back another day. Mommy's not feeling so well right now." Lucas nodded gently. "Okay, I get worried when you're not feeling good." As we walked back to the car, I stopped the recording. 5 minutes of audio, and within it, every ugly truth laid bare. They called me a loser. They were planning to cut me off as soon as the mortgage was paid. I would never hand over those Europe tickets. That envelope had held my love and sacrifice, and now it would never reach their hands. Driving home, tears welled up, but I forced them back for Lucas's sake. I glanced at him through the rearview mirror. His face was still full of innocence. I had to protect him, no matter what. During the 20-minute drive, something inside me began to shift. Love turned into disappointment. Disappointment turned into anger. And that anger slowly crystallized into a calm, unshakable resolve. 15 years ago, I was 23, juggling plans to launch my senior care facility when my father ran into trouble with his job and asked for help with the mortgage debt. $200,000 felt astronomical to me at the time. But I believed my business would eventually become profitable. That's when Michelle's husband, Nathan, a lawyer, offered legal advice. "If you're taking over the mortgage, you'll eventually own the house too. It's a good investment. I'll handle the legal paperwork." I was young and naive, driven by a sense of duty to my family. So I agreed. At just 23 years old, I took on the mortgage. For 15 years, while building my business, I made every payment month after month. Looking back, all their tears and words of gratitude, Nathan's offer to help, it had all been calculated. Performative. I had been used, manipulated for 15 years under the guise of family. The next night, I could never forget the shock I felt when I realized that my kindness and love for my family had been completely exploited. Still up? Nicholas, my husband, walked into the living room with a cup of coffee after Lucas had gone to bed. "You've been acting off since yesterday. What happened?" I hesitated. I hadn't told Nicholas yet. He genuinely loved my family, especially my father. They even went fishing together. Actually. And so I told him everything, the conversation I overheard during the anniversary visit. His face slowly hardened. "I can't believe this," he said after listening to the recording. "I've seen firsthand how much you've given up for them, how you've saved every penny to pay that mortgage." The next day, I decided to go back to the house. Nicholas objected. "It's dangerous, Alyssa, if they find out. But I need more evidence. The recording won't be enough." "Then I'm coming with you," he said firmly. "I'm not letting you go alone." Nicholas waited in the car. When I arrived at my parents' house, I wasn't surprised to find it empty. Using the spare key, I stepped inside and headed straight for my father's study. The recording I had made the night before might not be enough to hold up in court, and I needed more concrete evidence. While searching through some documents, I noticed my father's phone lying on the dining table. He must have left it behind. At first, I had no intention of touching it. I wasn't suspicious of him. I was mainly looking for legal or financial documents related to the family estate. But something about the phone made me hesitate. If he was really hiding something, maybe the truth was on that device. I knew the passcode. It was my mother's birthday. After 36 years in this family, I could practically predict my father's every move. The moment the screen unlocked, my world collapsed. At the top of the message list in his app, there was a name, S. With trembling fingers, I opened it. An endless string of intimate messages appeared. "I'm being careful not to let Rose find out. Just a little longer, and we can start our new life. Susan, you're the only one for me." The more I scrolled, the worse it got. "Once Alyssa finishes paying off the mortgage in 3 years, we'll begin our new life together. Robert, are you really going to leave Rose? Of course. I only see a future with you. But Alyssa adores you. Don't worry. Michelle and Nathan will handle everything." I kept scrolling. The messages got more detailed and more disturbing. "I won't tell Michelle about us. She just wants to make sure Alyssa is removed from the inheritance." "What about Rose?" "She won't know a thing. Michelle will convince her. She's never liked Alyssa anyway." I could barely breathe. My mother had no idea about the affair and was unknowingly being manipulated by Michelle to go along with their scheme. I checked the messages between my father and Michelle next. "Michelle, thank you for talking Mom into it. Dad, once Alyssa finishes paying off the mortgage, the estate really goes to me, right? I promise. As long as you keep Mom convinced, everything will be yours." She was worried about Alyssa, but I told her, "Don't worry, she makes enough money." Perfect. Alyssa doesn't suspect a thing. I couldn't stop shaking. My sister had deceived my mother just to claim the inheritance, and my father was using me to secure a future with his mistress. The first step was identifying the true identity of my father's mistress, S, so I started by checking the contact list at his workplace. Checking the staff directory of my father's company, I found her, Susan Miller. He was having an affair with a coworker. And that wasn't all. I discovered a legal consultation email between Michelle's husband Nathan and my father. Attached was a mortgage payoff schedule and a detailed plan to legally cut me out of the inheritance once the mortgage was paid off. They had planned every detail around the assumption that I would continue paying for 3 more years. After that, they would cut me out of the estate and transfer everything to Michelle. As if my father's affair wasn't shocking enough, what devastated me even more was discovering the cold, calculated plan that had mapped out every corner of my life. I quickly took photos of the evidence and saved as many of Susan's messages as I could. When I returned to the car, Nicholas took one look at my pale face and asked, "What happened?" I showed him the screenshots. His fists clenched. "Your dad's having an affair, and they're planning to push you out the moment the mortgage is paid off in 3 years? And Nathan's involved, he gave them legal advice." "This is unforgivable," Nicholas said, his voice shaking. "I respected your father. I thought he was a great grandpa for Lucas. If I hadn't found his phone, I would have never known." My voice was shaking. I never suspected him, not once. The next day, we visited a law office together. Nicholas never let go of my hand as we explained everything to attorney Jessica Irving. "This is a fascinating case," she said, reviewing the documents. "But if they're waiting for the mortgage to be paid off, we have an opportunity. We can use these next 3 years to gather even stronger evidence and prepare a solid legal strategy." 3 years? I was stunned. "Alyssa, we could file now, but if we wait until the mortgage is paid off, the fraudulent intent becomes undeniable and your case will be far stronger." Nicholas spoke up. "So, you're saying Alyssa has to keep paying the mortgage for 3 more years?" "Yes, it's a painful decision, but if your goal is full restitution, it's the best strategy. And during those years, I advise you limit contact with them as much as possible to avoid tipping them off or prompting them to destroy evidence." I took a long breath. 3 more years of pretending. 3 more years of keeping the truth hidden. But for Lucas's future and my own justice, I needed to finish what I started. All right. I had made up my mind. When the mortgage is fully paid off in 3 years, I'll settle everything once and for all. "I stand with my wife completely," Nicholas declared without hesitation. "I'll take care of all the expenses if needed. What Alyssa's been put through is inexcusable." As I signed the legal documents, I could feel just how deeply I relied on Nicholas's strength. Even if my own blood had betrayed me, my true family was right beside me. That night, after returning from the law office, Nicholas and I sat down to discuss the plan. How exactly do I create distance for 3 years without making them suspicious? I asked, anxiety creeping in. If you pull away too suddenly, they'll notice. So we'll give them natural reasons. In the first 6 months, I used the excuse of being overwhelmed with work at the care facility. "Alyssa, you must be exhausted," my mother said over the phone. I made sure my voice sounded tired. "I'm sorry, Mom. We're onboarding new residents, and I just can't get away." "You're working that hard. Are you taking care of yourself?" "I am. But I'll have to miss the family dinner this Sunday. I've got to finish the paperwork." She sounded concerned. Don't push yourself too hard. Her kindness filled me with guilt. Even Michelle reached out. Alyssa, you've been super busy lately. Are you overdoing it? Thanks, Michelle. But I need to focus on getting the business on track. By the 8th month, I started using staff training system development as my reason to skip weekend gatherings, sometimes skipping nearly half of them. You can't make it again this Saturday? My father asked with a slight edge in his voice. It's great that you're so dedicated to work, but don't forget about your family. To me, that sounded hollow, hypocritical. I enrolled Lucas in more weekend activities and occasionally used not feeling well to bow out. Gradually, I stopped showing up almost entirely. Alyssa, will you be coming to Mom's birthday this year? Michelle asked. I'm really sorry, but we have an audit that week. I wish I could be there. Skipping my mother's birthday hurt more than I expected. But it was a sacrifice necessary for the plan to succeed. Then, 1 month before the mortgage was due to be paid off, I proposed a family celebration. A final moment together, framed as a joyful gathering. It'll be nice to finally sit down and talk, all of us, I said on the phone. My mother sounded thrilled. Yes, it really will. I smiled as I replied, silently saying goodbye in my heart. Later, Nicholas said to me, "You kept it up for 3 whole years. Your acting skills are on par with a professional." It wasn't acting, I said, utterly drained. It was agony. I nearly drowned in guilt. And yet, the carefully constructed distance worked. They'd gotten used to my supposed independence and busyness. None of them suspected that I had been preparing for this moment all along. And now, the day of reckoning had arrived. 3 years of restraint and silence were finally about to bear fruit. On the morning of the family reunion, my hands trembled with nerves. On the surface, it was just a celebration of the mortgage being paid off. But in reality, it was a stage for calculated revenge. Over the past 3 years, I had worked with Jessica to gather evidence and build a legal case. Today was the culmination of it all. You okay? Nicholas asked gently, placing a hand on my shoulder. You don't have to do this. I can go in your place. No, this is something I need to do. I took a deep breath. If anything goes wrong. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Nicholas promised. He held my hand firmly. And I already told Lucas that you're heading to an important meeting. When you're done, let's take him somewhere nice for dinner, just the 3 of us. I arrived at my parents' house dressed in my most professional attire. A navy blue pantsuit, a string of pearls around my neck, and in my hand a tablet loaded with critical evidence. It wasn't the uniform of a caregiver. It was the armor of a woman ready for battle. Alyssa. It's been so long, my mother greeted me with a smile, though I could see a hint of tension behind it. Mom, Dad, Michelle, Nathan. I addressed each of them by name and bowed slightly. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be here. My father glanced at the bag I was carrying. You brought quite a bit with you. I smiled just as Nicholas and I had rehearsed. They're very important documents. We entered the dining room. Once seated in the dining room, I took the head of the table and connected my tablet to the large TV screen. A wave of confusion spread across my family's faces. I have a special announcement to make, I said, rising and raising my glass. For the past 3 years, I've been seeking the truth. And today I'd like to share what I've found. The first thing I played was the audio I had recorded during their 50th anniversary 3 years ago. Michelle's voice calling me a loser, my mother's agreement, the detailed plan to cut me out. Their voices echoed through the room, slicing through the silence. Now that the mortgage had been paid off just as they had planned, the significance of this recording was undeniable. This recording was made exactly 3 years ago. And as of today, it's been 1 week since the mortgage was fully paid off. I explained calmly. Michelle turned pale. Alyssa, you've known all this time? Yes, I kept paying for 3 years, knowing everything on the advice of my attorney. But that was only the beginning. My father stood up. So you've been lying to us for 3 years? No, you're the ones who lied. Then I projected screenshots messages between him and Susan Miller. For the past 3 years, I've been gathering evidence with legal counsel, letting your plan unfold exactly as you intended. The room turned ice cold. Dad, would you care to explain your 13-year affair with Ms. Susan Miller? The color drained from his face. Oh, and by the way, I continued, I've already spoken with Susan's husband. I thought he deserved the truth too. My mother stood abruptly and screamed at my father. Robert, is this true? You've been cheating on me for over 10 years. Finally, I displayed the complete mortgage repayment records, 18 years worth. This is what I paid out of love for this family, I said firmly. Nathan began frantically typing on his phone. I looked directly at him. Nathan, all the legal documents you're trying to delete already backed up. Every piece of advice you gave to help exclude me from the inheritance is documented. The room descended into chaos. My mother threw a vase. Michelle burst into tears. My father stumbled over excuses. But it was too late. I quietly stood and turned toward the front door. As of today, our relationship is over. Just then, my father grabbed my wrist in a rage, and the door swung open. Let go of her. Nicholas's voice was low but thunderous. I had never seen that expression on his face before. Nicholas, my father muttered, visibly shaken. Father. No, Robert. Nicholas stopped calling him father. Don't touch my wife again. If you come any closer, I'll call the police. The energy in the room shifted instantly. Nicholas's presence silenced the storm. You were part of this conspiracy too? Robert stammered. Conspiracy? Nicholas scoffed. You have no idea what Alyssa went through these past 3 years. The stress, the heartbreak, the strength it took to make every payment. He stepped forward. We've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Alyssa gave you every chance because she still loved her family. But you never changed your plan. He guided me toward the door. From now on, all communication goes through our attorney. He helped me into my coat. You did it, he whispered, wrapping me in a hug. You never have to look back. In the car, the tears finally came, exhaustion and relief crashing over me. Nicholas didn't say a word. He simply rubbed my back in silence. How do we explain this to Lucas? I asked through sobs. Let's tell him the truth in a way he can understand, Nicholas said gently. We don't need to lie. We'll tell him in words he can understand. He'll know his mom did the right thing. 1 week after the revelation, I was helping Lucas with his homework alongside Nicholas when my mother called in a panic. Alyssa. Her voice trembled. I've filed for divorce. I can't live under the same roof as your father for another day. I was stunned. I hadn't expected my mother to divorce my father. Honestly, I thought they'd end up blaming me and standing united as husband and wife. When I confronted him about Susan, he confessed everything, she said. 13 years, Alyssa. 13 years I was a fool. You were paying off the entire mortgage while he was spending his money on that woman. I could hear her crying on the other end of the line. 50 years of marriage, shattered overnight. But Mom, I said, my voice conflicted. You agreed to the plan to cut me out of the family, didn't you? After a long silence, she answered softly. Michelle pressured me into it. I didn't truly understand the weight of your sacrifices. I'm so sorry, Alyssa. But my mind was already made up. Mom, I've decided to cut ties with the family completely. I'm done putting myself at risk of being used or betrayed. After I hung up, Nicholas looked at me with concern. What happened with your mom? I explained, and his expression turned complex. To be honest, I'm surprised. I really thought they'd turn on you and stick together. So did I. After that, my mother started calling more frequently. Apologies, loneliness, financial worries, she brought them all to me. One night, after yet another long call, Nicholas said gently, Alyssa, you're not obligated to be your mother's emotional support. But she's all alone now. That's the result of her choices, he said firmly but kindly. You've carried your family's emotional weight for 39 years. It's time to prioritize yourself and our family. 2 months later, on the day of the court hearing, Nicholas took the day off to go with me. Thanks to Jessica Irving's strategic legal work, my father's financial abuse and fraudulent behavior were formally recognized. I hereby order the defendants to pay 80% of the total mortgage amount as damages to the plaintiff. The moment the judgment was read, my knees nearly gave out from relief. Nicholas held me steady. It wasn't full recovery, but it was validation. 15 years of struggle finally acknowledged. As we exited the courthouse, Michelle came rushing down the hallway toward me. Alyssa, we're still sisters, aren't we? Nicholas immediately stepped in front of me. Michelle, there is a restraining order. If you get any closer, we'll call the police. Nicholas, even you, but we're family. Family isn't defined by blood, he said quietly. Family is a relationship built on love and respect. You gave that up. That night, I used part of the compensation to open a college fund for Lucas. The rest went into expanding the care facility. It was my first true step forward, leaving the past behind and building something for the future. 18 years of hard work finally paid off, Nicholas said, holding my hand. I couldn't have done this without you, I replied, full of gratitude. If I had been alone, I would have given up halfway. You were never alone. You have us. His words gave me a quiet confidence. This truly was the beginning of a new life. A year after the verdict, our life had grown richer than I could have imagined. We expanded the care facility, added 3 new staff members, and received heartfelt thanks from the residents' rewards more valuable than any amount of money. "Alyssa, you made the right call," Nicholas said, lounging on the new sofa we'd just bought. "You've changed so much over this past year. You've got your real smile back." And he was right. I felt lighter, like I had finally been released from heavy chains. No more mortgage payments. No more emotional manipulation. I was truly free. We hadn't heard a word from my parents' side since. Then one crisp autumn afternoon, I received a call from my cousin, Ben. "Alyssa, there's something I think you should know about your parents." My heart skipped a beat. "Is something wrong?" "It's about Aunt Rose," he said cautiously. "You know the divorce is final, right? Well, she's living alone now. A 1-bedroom apartment in downtown." "I see," I replied, unsure of what to feel. "It's rough. Word is she's struggling financially and had to take a part-time job at a grocery store. Works 5 days a week from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. There was genuine sympathy in his voice. The image of my mother working early shifts at a convenience store squeezed my chest. "I see her sometimes at family events, but she looks older," Ben continued. "She usually just sits quietly by herself. And sometimes she murmurs things like, 'If only Alyssa were here.'" Nicholas watched me quietly, concern written across his face. "Robert's situation is even worse," Ben said, his tone growing heavier. "You've heard that things with Susan are completely over, right? She took a new job out of state." "She did?" "Her husband filed for divorce, and during the proceedings he demanded compensation from your dad. I think it was about $15,000 for 10 years of infidelity." I caught my breath. And $15,000 was no small amount for my father. Plus there's the 70 grand he owes you in damages, right? On top of legal fees, it's a lot. He's in serious financial trouble. Ben hesitated, then added, "The big house is too much for him alone, and the maintenance costs are draining him. I heard he's thinking about selling it. But after repaying your investment share, he won't have much left." A few weeks later, Nicholas got a call from an old college friend who worked at the law firm where Nathan Michelle's husband was employed. "Things are falling apart in Nathan's household. He's lost a lot of respect in the legal field after everything with your sister-in-law. Clients see him as someone who enabled financial abuse. His reputation is shot." Nicholas probed for more details. "Apparently, even within the firm, he's been sidelined. His salary was cut, and since Michelle never worked, they're struggling financially. School costs, daily expenses, it's catching up with them. There's even talk he's been drinking more from the stress." The friend continued. "Michelle's been trying to find part-time work, but after years as a stay-at-home mom, it's not easy. They argue constantly. One of their neighbors heard Nathan screaming, 'Your family destroyed my career.' But by then, all of it felt like something from a past life, distant, irrelevant." "You're a strong woman, Alyssa," Nicholas said after the call, gently taking my hand. I squeezed his hand back. "We're a real family now, aren't we? Mom, where are we going for the next holiday?" Lucas, now 10, appeared from his room having just finished his homework. "Every month, we planned a small family trip together. Seaside towns, mountain cabins, historic cities, wherever we went, it was always the 3 of us. And that made it special." This time you get to pick, I said, running my fingers through his hair. Then, the dinosaur museum. Lucas's eyes lit up with excitement. It was such a simple exchange, yet deeply precious. There was a time when my mind was always preoccupied with my parents and their endless demands. Now, my focus was fully on the family right in front of me, Nicholas and Lucas. This past year had taught me something invaluable. Family isn't about blood. It's about mutual love, trust, and support. This is my family. Nicholas, Lucas, and me. And that's more than enough.